Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of The Walking Dead. Great series finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So yes, it's taken me forever to get here because I never wanted to see anything come to an end, and I've just been so far behind on The Walking Dead stuff, but I finally did it. I was missing the last two episodes, and here we are. I am here at the finale. It is sad, not as sad as I thought it was going to be. I mean, it feels poetic for it to be a lot more hopeful than sad, because the show's always been so sad with the sprinklings of hoping. Like, there's always been the big hope elements to it, but it is just a depressing show. That's why I always kind of have to take it in strides, because I'm like, oh god, do I have it in me mentally to handle the depressing nature that is this franchise? But yes, it wasn't as sad as I thought it would be. Doesn't mean wasn't on the verge of tears multiple times in this episode. So obviously we're picking up in the aftermath of last episode. The Jules and Luke thing, 1, 2, because all right, Jules got bitten. I was like, all right, all you got to do is, got to give her to Lydia and Aaron just got to chop off that arm. But it's like, nope, she ends up getting ripped up, and you're just like, she gets lost in all the dead. I'm like, that sucks. Then Luke gets bit. I was like, all right, as long as you can chop that leg off, because they're dragging him back, and by the time they do chop off his leg, it's already too late. I think it's just like it's not too late in that capacity. It's just he loses too much blood because all the medical supplies are gone, because all the doctors and nurses were moved to the estate, and they brought all the medical supplies. Like, yeah, let's take care of everyone that's at the estate who matters. But because I thought, okay, rich and powerful people were going to be there. I mean, we didn't really get that side of things. Because I thought, obviously we know there's a higher society. Maybe there were higher society people there, but the only person they focused on was Pamela. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if because I'd assume it's oh, let's protect, the lower wards can get screwed over because that's where the lower end people live. But the higher end people are all here at Pamela's estate. Maybe they weren't. But the only focus we got was Pamela. We didn't really get any focus on the other people. So maybe even the higher up people were kind of lost. Because I think everyone that was in the lower wards are stuck in their houses. I think everyone that came up might have been the higher end people too. I think it was just Pamela's estate. But I think everyone that was on the outside were the higher end families in the Commonwealth. But either way, you had Daryl trying to take care of Judith. The fact of the matter is, some guards came through and knocked him out, dude. I was like, damn. And Judith, bullet wound and everything, and you're just she's so out of it, but she's still trying to close the door, and then she passes out, her and Daryl being passed out from each other like that. Luckily, Carol and the others showed up, but it's the group. It is, I would have never expected that to be the situation. It's first and foremost, that entire core group to be alive, Yumiko, Magna, Connie, and Kelly, and for Luke to only be the death was kind of surprising. But it's almost he would have had to carry on without her, and it's just damn, dude, that sucks. And just for him, they pull out his harmonica, and they're like, don't worry, we'll keep the music alive for everyone, because that was his thing of trying to keep music alive. I mean, obviously, Dan Fogler wasn't in the show a lot over the year, but I mean, it's for that core group, if I remember correctly, they were introduced in season 8, weren't they? So live all that time, when you found love, and just for that to happen, it's just the biggest middle finger. It's yeah, we got to open this up with a gut punch, and just that's where I wanted to really cry. It's damn, it sucks. You lost your girlfriend and just found love, but now it's your friends are trying to save you, your family's trying to save you, but they can't, and they have to say goodbye to you. It's just them crying on top of him. It's just had to hold back the tears. I was like, geez, I want to be crying this early in the episode. And now Daryl's trying to give blood to Judith because he can he even had that line where it's yeah, Merle used to, when we were kids, would have me sell my blood to make money. So it's geez, Daryl, your upbringing. I mean, to be fair, he wouldn't be the first one. Plenty of people sell their blood. I mean, isn't that how some college students pay for stuff? It's by selling their blood just to kind of get through college. Not necessarily tuition, but to kind of help pay with some fees or even textbooks and stuff like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but isn't that a thing? You do a whole bunch of studies and stuff like that to get money. But I'm going on this huge tangent, but yeah, the place is overrun with the dead, especially because as they put them, the variant types. I mean, hell, it all popped off because one of them in particular picked up a rock and is banging it against glasses. Like, that's annoying as hell. So they're trying to get Judith out of the hospital. At the same time, Mercer gets rescued. I love it. It's Princess and her being like, yo, baby, stay back and duck down. He's like, yeah, I'm clear. And her, like, you know, first, like, Max and him hug, and then she, like, hops up in his arm. It's like, oh, like, reunited lovers. So it's like, her calling him baby and everything was like, oh, that. Once again, him calling him, like, him being like, oh, my girlfriend, and her calling him baby. It's like, it's really sweet. But, luckily they were able to get Judith to, Yumiko's brother. Because I was thinking, like, I brought it up last episode too. I'm like, there's no way they're going to kill her. Once again, she's not alive in the comics. Once again, she died in Laurie's belly. Like, when Laurie died, she died too. So, it's like, I mean, would this franchise not kill kids? It's like, oh, they'd kill kids, you know? So, it's like, but I would assume they wouldn't with everything going on with Michonne and Rick. That they wouldn't, especially because it's like, well, because you can make the argument, well, Judith could go, but then, like, there'd still be RJ left. But I'm like, I don't think that'd be the case. I think they'd want that duo to be able to live, you know? Kind of carry on the legacy of their now deceased brother, you know, Carl. So I don't know. It's just to kind of keep that family torch going. I think it'd make more sense to kind of keep them alive, which they are. But we'll get to when we get to that when we get to it. And if Daryl hadn't given Judith her blood, given her his blood like he did, she wouldn't have survived. It gave them the time they needed to make sure she was okay. Because she was even scared, being like, oh, is this where I'm going to die? Like, I need to survive, because if I don't, like, what happens when mom finds dad and comes back? I won't be there. Like, you know, I have to be around for when they come back. And that's Daryl's first time hearing about it. It's like, yeah, that's why mom didn't come back. I was supposed to kind of keep that a secret, but it's like, I kind of let it slip. But it's like, yeah, that's, and because Daryl was like, no, it's going to be okay. I know how tough your mom is. She's going to find your dad. Like, it's all going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I'm not, because she was even going like, right, and I don't want you to leave too. And he was like, don't worry, I'm here. I got you. So at the same time, Rosita, Gabriel, and Eugene go to rescue the youngins, in particular Coco. And they end up getting stuck. I was like, oh, crap. And especially when Rosita was telling Eugene, like, you go ahead. I was like, oh, God, Rosita, don't do this. And she fell. I was like, no. But they kind of, like, Rosita is the fighter that she has, got up. It's like, you know, mom energy kicked in. That protective mama bear kicked in. Because I was about to say, it's not a one-to-one, but it's like, I know, like, it kind of reminded me of that situation, like, a couple seasons back. Was that season 4? Maybe it was season 5? The whole... What's the season? I don't remember what season it was. It was like Glenn was underneath a body, and it made you think like Glenn might have gotten ripped apart, but there was a body on top of him that got ripped apart. Because if I remember correctly, I believe that story beat happens. Once again, I've not read the comic. This is just stuff I remember hearing people say. I think that particular storyline happened for Jesus in the comic, didn't it? I think so. I don't remember. But either way, her like swinging, and I was like, oh gosh, she got on top of the ambulance. I was like, well, some of these bastards can climb, so what's going to happen? Jumps to the pipe and is able to crawl up. I was like, okay. I was like, are we really going to be okay with that? I was like, oh. I was so scared, because I was thinking at any moment Rosita's going to hand over Coco, and it's like, I'll sacrifice myself. But then, like, there's that moment where she's just talking about Coco, like, oh, I want to soak her in, especially when Eugene's like, oh, like, I bet you can't wait for summer. And it's like, yeah, teaching the baby to swim and everything. And Rosita's response is, I'm like, no. It's like, you're not. And it turns out, yes, it's not somewhere that could be amputated. It's on like her upper, like near her shoulder blade. It's up there, like behind her, like on her back near her shoulder blade. I was like, fuck me. I was like, no way. I was like, Jesus, dude. Because, like, Rosita's had her close calls this entire, like, multiple times throughout this series. But I was like, there's no way. And just Eugene's kind of breaking down. And she's like, no, it's going to be okay. You're going to hold your shit together, Eugene, because I don't want the others to worry. I just want to enjoy this time with Coco. And it's just like, you'll be fine. I know you will be. Like, you know. And him having to be strong for Rosita. And they're just, and being like, I love you so much. And it's like, I love you too. And it's like, dude, come on. I was like, that sucks. There's so many children that are just growing up without their parents. I mean, it's like, that's just the nature of this world. I mean, hell, if we're not, because I legitimately let it slip my mind. I was like, oh man, it sucks. It's like, I mean, it's like, if we're not killing parents, we are killing kids. I mean, we got it with like Sherry and Dwight. Like, come on. Ugh. Because I almost let that slip my mind just now. I was like, oh yeah, that happened. Spoilers for like the first half of this final season of Fear the Walking Dead. But either way, because obviously that wasn't out by the time this was originally airing. So like, once again, I'm getting to this extremely, extremely, extremely late. But you know, here we are. You had that great conversation between Negan and Maggie, where Negan wants to take out Pamela, and he's like, I'm not doing it just for me. I'm not going to get anything out of it. I'm doing it for your sake, because whoever takes out Pamela, all the heat's going to be on them. And it's like, you need to stick around because you're a good person. Your son needs you. Like, to me, I'm kind of like, I will deal with the consequences, because he's probably thinking like, right, at the very least, you'll look after Annie and our baby. I need to do this for your sake. And he finally breaks down. It's like, when I was on my knees and I thought I was going to lose everything, my wife, my child, I finally knew what it was like to be on what you lost. I finally understood what it was that I took away from you. And the fact that he's like, Maggie, I'm so sorry. I can never like make up for what I've taken from you. You know, I took Glenn from you. I took not only Glenn from you, I took away your son's father. Like, you know. And so Maggie was ready to kill Pamela, but the squad led by Mercer ended up like stopping Pamela because they had the gates closed. They were shooting anyone that was climbing over. And so Maggie and Negan were going to go take a shot at her. But the thing is that Mercer showed up and was going to arrest her. In fact, arrest her, because like Gabriel was going to open up the gate. It's like, you're going to leave all those people to die. But it's like, the moment you open that gate, you're going to also let in the dead. But, you know, that line from Daryl where it's like, we're not the enemy. Like, we can see this through. Like, these are innocent people. We're not the enemy. We've only got one enemy. We ain't the Walking Dead. I was like, he did it. He did it. He said the thing. Because I don't think they've said Walking Dead, but I don't know. Like, they've probably said the exact phrase Walking Dead. Squeaking it in at the end is still impressive. But I'm like, I don't know if they've ever used the exact phrase. Like, obviously they've said walkers and stuff like that. But I'm like, I don't know. They've definitely had to have said The Walking Dead at some point in time. Like, within the confines of dialogue in the show. They've had to say it at some point. But it's like, maybe it's actually a cap-in thing of like, maybe they said it in the first episode of the series and now we're saying it in the final episode. Maybe it's something like that. But it's just like, oh, he did it, he said the thing, he said the title of the show, you know. So but yeah, Pamela getting arrested, Negan's like, yeah, let's not kill her, because at the end of the day, for someone like her where all of this matters so much, like her being arrested is just kind of the biggest, like, worst thing that could possibly happen, because the other guards like don't back Pamela, because it's like, right, we are all in this together. Like, these are innocent people. You have a chance to do something good. Like, don't make it a us versus them. It's like, we're all people. The dead are the Walking Dead are the enemy. That's who we should be fighting, not each other. Like, don't you want something better? We can be better. We need to be better. Do better. That's always been kind of the modus operandus for like our core cast. And so they let the people in and they block off the dead. And there's that moment where Pamela was almost going to take the easy way out. Who's amongst them? Hornsby. It's like, oh, how very poetic. And she's sticking her neck out. She was going to take the easy way out so she doesn't have to live with what she's done. But Maggie ends up killing Hornsby because Judith is like, no, it's not too late. You can still turn things around. You can do right. And so they are luring all the dead in, and they're going to blow specifically the estate area up, lead them all in there, plenty of fuel and gasoline, and they light that sucker up. It's like, Jesus, that is the biggest explosion I think we've ever gotten in the show. I mean, it's like the ground cracking open and like walkers falling in. It's like, that was I wasn't expecting how cataclysmic that looked. That looked like, if this was some other situation, like that'd be like in a fantasy game or a fantasy story, that'd be like a cataclysmic like meteor just hit the ground and like everything was just scorched earth. It looked like that, cinematically speaking. But that's why I was like, wow, like this has a little bit of a happier ending than I was kind of expecting. I was like, wow, no one else died. It was like, well, then I had to be reminded, right, Rosita. And they're having a party, they're all celebrating. Well, that's after Pamela was kind of put in jail. And she's like, right, the whole choice of, well, you're going to have to decide where people go, like who gets the bigger houses. Someone has to make the hard choices, the ugly choices, which I love Carol's line of, we already did make an ugly choice, and that's by letting you live. But the fact of the matter is, we don't have to worry about anyone getting your house or who would get your house, because that's gone. But it's like, they've had to make this, it's not like you're speaking to them like they've never had, like they've made choices, not the best, like they've made ugly choices in the past. They know what it's like. But the fact is, it's about learning from that and growing. Like, this is all on you. Your choices, your decisions led to so much death. Like, you set in motion a lot of this and cost a lot of people their lives. So she's kind of getting the Negan treatment. Granted, it's basically like, hey, we'll figure it out later on. But I think she's going to be, at least Negan's had his redemption arc. I don't see Pamela necessarily getting hers. So they're all gathered. They're, everyone's happy and like, it's just a feel good time. And they're celebrating Luke. And, Magna and Yumiko, like, finally kind of, it's like, right, like there was already, I don't think they've, like, since they kind of broke things off, there's been this, let's try and figure it out, but they hadn't quite taken those steps yet until now, where it's like, I think especially after losing Luke, it's like, right, like, let's stop wasting time. We're alive and let's take advantage of it. We got to live for those who can't live. As the end of the episode says, we're the ones who live. But then, like, Rosita ends up having to tell Gabriel the truth, and you can see that look on Judith's face, like she knew something was wrong. And for everyone to kind of find out, this way, and Gabriel praying with her, she's getting to lay in the bed with Coco one last time, and that line of, we'll meet you again someday down the road, and for Eugene to be there with her, being like, I love you, and I would not be the man I am today if it wasn't for you. And it's just like, considering like all that they've been through over the course of the show, it's like we were introduced to them and Abraham at the same time. And it's just for us to be here at this moment. And it's just, for her, it's like, I'm glad it's you in the end. And I was like, damn, I was like, fuck, Rosita. And just, once again, it's just, I feel so bad for doing this to her, but it's just like, every time it's just like, because I had Ned Declassified on my head recently too, so I'm just, even more so after coming back to it, I'm just like, Susie Crabgrass! I feel so bad doing that to her. It's Christian, is it like Christian Serratos? Yeah, but I'm right. Well, I hope I'm not butchering her last name. So yeah, it's just, and then we skip to like a year later and just kind of them rebuilding everything. Obviously, God, I skipped over so much. I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, Lydia was kind of scared that Jerry was gone, and so was Elijah, because it's like, that's what happens. People die. These towns and everything you build never lasts. I mean, it's understandable why, like, in a moment like that, you'd kind of feel that weight crushing you, considering, like, that's the whole principle behind the Whisperers, that it was going to be a thing of, like, yeah, like, nothing human-made or man-made will ever last, and, like, you think Elijah's going and Jerry's going, but they're both alive, luckily. But when it's all said and done, like I said, you get that year later, and here's Max and Eugene have a daughter named Rosie, which is like, of course they do. That's sweet. I'd like to believe, it probably won't happen, but I'd like to believe, like, if they had ended up having a son, he'd name him Abraham or something. I'd want that. Just on some level, I would want that. We have Ezekiel being the mayor, which feels so befitting because he's the one that's always kind of, almost, it feels good to have him like fully in a leadership position again, but he's the one that rallied behind Mercer. Like, right, this place didn't seem like it was worth it because of how it's treated us, but the people here are. So now he's the governor, Mercer's the lieutenant governor. For a second, I thought that was supposed to be a wedding at first. I was like, and Mercer being up there, I was like, is this Mercer and Princess getting married? But it's like, whoa, slow down, buddy, slow down. So it ends up being not that, but we also see Alexandria having been rebuilt. We find out Carol has basically become the new Hornsby. He was kind of setting her up to be that regardless, but now it's like, right, I'm going to take his job, and where he was doing the evil, duplicitous shit he was doing, I'm going to do good. But even like I think that was the front of Alexandria where it's like right they've got the names of all the people that have died. Like we see like Adrian's name and Glenn's name. So and just like once again, surprised that so many of these characters survived the end. Because I mean, did I really expect them to go full slaughter at the end? I don't know. I wasn't. I was so scared that this ending was going to be more depressing than it was. Once again, still was. Because that Rosita stuff like broke me. Like I was on the verge of tears. I was like, no, I'm not gonna cry. I gotta see this through. Like, but it's like that Rosita stuff was probably the most heartbreaking element of this episode for me. But just to see like everyone's still here, because I had skipped over it. Oh my god, I'm skipping over so many good things. Like I forgot about the um Maggie and Negan thing, which to be fair, like I already knew the spinoff was like already obviously sadly everyone knew ahead of time, even when this was airing that the Maggie and Negan spinoff was happening. It's like people probably would have preferred being able to know about that well after the show had ended, just that way it wasn't like ruined like oh Maggie and Negan are gonna survive. I mean we knew that pretty early on in the final season that was gonna happen, they would get on spinoff. But either way, Maggie had that conversation with Negan about like, yes, I had been wondering if I'd ever hear those words, "I'm sorry" from you, and if I could ever forgive you, and she can, because it's like you took Glenn away from me. Like all I can remember is the look on his face, the blood on his head, him calling for me, and you mocking him as he died. You saved my son, yes, but I can never forgive you for taking away Glenn from me. He was such a good person. He was such a bright kind of star, and for you to take that away from me is terrible, and I don't think I'll ever quite forgive you for it. And for her it's like it's the conundrum of I don't want to hold on to that hatred because I don't want my son to see that anyone has that type of control over me. And I get it. I see that you are trying. I completely understand that, and I am trying too. And it's like we can do good together. Like the fact of the matter is some days I might not want to look at you, I might not want to work together, but understand at the end of the day I am still trying like to make the best of this, but I can never forgive you for what you took away from me. And that's just kind of like Negan just has to take that on the chin, and so you see that look of him and Daryl kind of give each other that look. So at first I was like, did Negan leave then or did he leave like a year later? Because he leaves because later on, Judith gets like the Watcher compass from him. I mean, to be fair, they always had an interesting dynamic, which you find fascinating considering like the family situation, Rick and Negan's situation, and Michonne and Negan and stuff. It's just interesting that they kind of had the dynamic that they did. But I'm assuming because that was delivered to him in the way it was, that Negan hadn't left it. Probably like after that year, he probably signed up with what... I don't know if that he kind of goes off on his own with Annie or whether it's a situation of what... Because essentially they've built up a lot at home and now Maggie wants them to kind of spread out. That's where Daryl comes in to go off on his spinoff, and also where she goes off on her own because it's like, right, we got to kind of go out there and see what the world, we were repairing things at home, but we've also got to search out there in the world for more. So that's where they're kind of going their separate ways. And she's the one that kind of had brought that up to Carol and Daryl. Because initially the Daryl spinoff was supposed to be a Daryl and Carol thing, but obviously it ended up not being the case. So they put that into the story where it's like, yeah, like she decides to stay behind. Like he wishes that she could go with him. And it's like, right, this isn't going to be the last time we see each other. But for her, it's like, even if that is the case, it doesn't mean I'm still allowed to be sad in that regard. So, and for Daryl, it's like, right, I'll go out there and I'll find your, if I see anything about your mom and dad, I'll kind of like send word. Cause he's like, hey, this isn't goodbye forever. I'll be back, at some point in time. So, and it's like, right. I think it's sad to know like he's leaving Dog with Judith, but that's kind of nice at the same time. But even Judith is like, you deserve a happy ending too, Daryl. Uncle Daryl. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. Kind of saying goodbye to his best friend. And that always, like, I don't remember. I think Norman Reedus didn't like the way things played out relationship wise. I think I remember reading something a while back about it. I don't remember what the context was. I saw a little quote of something, but that was about it. And like it's been so long, I don't remember. Because obviously they flip flop back and forth. Because for the longest time, I thought something was going to be between him and Connie. Didn't end up happening. I guess they just stayed good friends. And obviously the complicated thing between him and Carol, they kind of just become friends. It's like we have our love situation and it just never worked out, but doesn't change the fact is we are integral to each other's lives, and the fact is we love each other so much. We've been in each other's lives for so long. So you're my best friend in the world. So, and obviously he had to put down his previous love interest of Leah this season. So kind of sad how that worked out. So it's like maybe in his story he'll find new love. I don't know. But like I said, everything being on a better note than I thought was so surprising. But like I said, it's just that happiness around, and it's just all that they're able to build together. And it feels right to kind of end on a happier note, even though I was so certain it was going to end on a depressing note. Then we had the whole thing with Michonne and Rick. At first I was like, wait, are they together? But then like them overlapping their letters, I was like, oh no, they're separate. And writing one, like Rick's writing to all of them because he has no idea Michonne's on the road looking for him, and she's kind of writing back to the to her kids because the radio doesn't reach that far. But kind of catching up with them at the end obviously feels poignant because we know, once again, set up for all the spin-offs and the and everything. And so it's beautiful kind of getting that look back on all these major characters we've had over the course of the show. It's just like, oh, it's just a reminder of all the people that are alive and also all the people we lost over the course of the show. It is kind of beautiful and sad, and I don't know, it's just everything. Because even Rick was kind of talking about, it isn't just about, once again, it's not just about the ones that are gone. They play a role in it, but it is also about those who are still here and kind of what you're going to build. Because at the end of the day, it's that line that, everyone kind of says the line being like, we're the ones who live, and just everything that kind of has happened over the course of the show. And I just thought, I don't know, I just thought that was so beautiful. I mean, especially we have the ending too, where like a lot of cast members are kind of saying their goodbyes and thank yous to the entire like cast, the fan base and everything, and all that in conjunction with everything, it's just kind of beautiful. But Rick has a letter in the bottle and he leaves it. I don't know if that's like, because I don't remember the circumstances of Michonne's final episode of like, did they find the letter from Rick, or is that something that will eventually get found by Michonne? I don't think it was found. Well, because she has the phone, and that's what Rick had before. So, like, all that's, like, already happened. Who knows how long ago that was. I mean, it's been a while since Michonne's final episode. So, I think in totality, it's, well, because obviously that's a year, it's well over a year ago, because there's months in between her, because her final episode was in, wasn't it, like, episode 13 of season 10? And then, like, obviously all the time frame is, like, the months and stuff that's passed in between then and now. But Rick being tracked down by, I can only assume, the Civic Republic because of the logo and everything, and they're trying to grab him up again. I wonder, has he run into, I don't remember her character's name, but Jadis, like, because in World Beyond she has a different name, because like Jadis isn't her real name, it's the fake name she came up with in this series. But like, I don't know if they've interacted post quote unquote Rick's final episode, but right, they're telling him to surrender and everything, and it kind of has to. I'm curious, will like a lot of World Beyond stuff, I'd assume would bleed over into the Rick and Michonne spinoff in some capacity. Because I'd assume that's kind of done in, I think that side of things, storyline-wise, at least in Fear, ended with Al's exit from the show. So I don't know if you get any more on that front. I'd assume having not seen Dead City or the Daryl spinoff, I don't know if that kind of comes up in that capacity, but it continues to be this overarching thread across a lot of shows. But Al was kind of the connective tissue for for Fear, The Walking Dead. That was a connective tissue, was her storyline. And Rick continues to be that thread in The Walking Dead. That was him / Jadis connected on that front. But I don't know. But just that smile across his face as like Michonne armored up, cutting through and seeing like a horde of the dead. She's on horseback, kind of like a samurai meeting a knight type of situation. I mean, well, I guess more feudal samurai would be more fitting, because it's like, right, they rode on horseback. Well, is it just, I just associate it with knights in particular, but for, like I said, the conjunction of all that being the end and just kind of ending on that fading to white and then that look on Rick's face. I actually forgot the actual ending cuts back to RJ and Judith being like, yeah, this is, it's our time. Like, we're the ones that are alive. It's up to us now to kind of, this was all for the next generation, and it's for them to kind of pick up the mantle and go forward from here. So it kind of end on them. It's just like, as we were dealing with like Michonne and Rick, for it to kind of end on the last shot being of their children, it's very befitting. So along with just the younger generation that's growing up as well, like Aaron's daughter, Gracie, and obviously with Rosie and Coco, so like I said, it took me a very, very long time, but it's still kind of wild to see it end here. I mean, that's the thing. There are other shows continuing, because Fear isn't done yet. It's about to be finished, I believe. I still need to catch up on this back half of the season. I haven't started it yet, but there's still Dead City. There's still there's going to be another Tales of series. It's going to have a different title, but there's going to be another anthology Walking Dead series. And Dead City, there's the Daryl spinoff. And then eventually there's the Rick and Michonne spinoff. It's going to be like a mini series. It's going to be a one-off. But there's always room for these characters to return in some capacity. They don't have to be in some full series capacity, but this universe is wide open and the shows are all connected. So like, people could pop up. This isn't necessarily the end. We could always see some new, some old characters pop up here and there. We could also get some newer characters that we could potentially get attached to, and eventually get heartbroken all over again when they go. So that's the double-edged sword that is this universe. But for The Walking Dead, the OG show, to be over, it is. I also didn't get the flash forward I thought we would, because once again, I know the comic ends with like a flash forward, like at least. I believe you get like a much older Carl, if I remember correctly. Once again, I'm talking out of stuff I feel like I heard years ago, because the comic ended a little while back. So I don't know if, like, when it's all said and done, when it comes down to the final Walking Dead anything, it's when we'll kind of get something like that. I don't know. Might even get it in the Rick and Michonne show. I don't know. But us only getting like a year for it, I thought was interesting, because I thought maybe this ends off, because I figured you can play with the timeline and kind of make some of the stories take place in between, but I thought maybe you get like an older Judith by the end, kind of like filling that void of like Carl being older in the comics, at least getting to that point of his story, like being like an older man. I don't know. I think he was like an old man by the end of the comic. I think it ends with Carl dying, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be, like, I easily could be, but I thought we'd get, like, maybe an older Judith and just how much time has passed. I don't know. Maybe they just decided, like, well, we don't want to kind of commit that much, because who knows, we don't want to overestimate and be like, oh, yeah, the world is like this at that point in time. It's like, you can keep it isolated, but it would probably open up too many questions. I don't know if the same thing happened with the Walking Dead comic. Once again, I don't know the lead up to the end of that, but I'm so curious. Will they ever do like a massive fast forward? I mean, once again, we are time skipping all over the place in some capacities. I mean, wasn't it like, yeah, it was 8 years. Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, like Fear in between 7 and 8 is like 8 years. So I don't know if, because I think that's supposed to incorporate so that every show is basically, well, the majority of the shows are all supposed to be set in the same time frame. So it's like, I think it's supposed to be like 2023 across every show at this point in time. I think that 8-year time skip allowed Fear to catch up to where, canonically speaking, The Walking Dead ends. I mean, I guess if anything, it is, well, it was 2022 at the time, so it probably is like 2023 now, after that year time skip, but I don't know. Once again, don't listen to me. My point, I went on this massive diatribe. I'm sorry. It's just, it's kind of wild to see it all come to an end. Like I said, there's always like more of these characters we could see. Maybe this will be one of the last time we get to see these characters, but there's no like full like goodbye. There's always potential for a see you later. And so all the close calls, all the tears, all the people we found, all the people we've lost over the course of the show. It's been a wild ride, and yes, it's taken me a long time to kind of bring this chapter in the story to a close, but there's still more stories to experience going forward. But this, at least when it comes to this show in itself, where some of these characters go off, where some of them stay, that's for the future to decide, and has already been decided in some capacities. But this Walking Dead ends here, and so to everyone involved, in front of the camera, behind the camera, thank you for this insane ride. Because I jumped into the show early enough. I want to say around season 3, while the show was still in season 3 is when I caught up. Then like I fell behind around season 5. Then I caught up, and then around season 6 I fell behind again. Like, cause I watched like the first episode of season 6, fell behind, and then I caught up with season 6, and then like watched, and then like ever since like season 7 premiered, I'd kept up with the show until these episodes, until like the final season. I kept getting far behind. But either way, it's been a hell of a ride, and I'm glad I've been on this journey quite a bit, along for that ride for the majority of it. So. But yeah, I'm just at this point I'm rambling because I never want stuff to end, but because once this recording's over, that's like the end. And even though I'm going to be watching and talking about other Walking Dead stuff after this, with the other shows. But either way, till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.